There is nothing, not darkness the way a room is dark when the lights go out. Something older than that. The absence that existed before there was anything to be absent from. Then breath. It arrives before you decide to take it. Your lungs expand on their own, pulling air that smells of myrrh and aloe and the specific mineral cold of sealed rock. The body remembers how to do this without being asked. What the body does not remember, at first, is anything else. Sensation returns in sequence. The linen wrappings press against your chest and arms, wound tight, saturated with 75 pounds of burial spices that have dried into a kind of shell. The stone shelf beneath you is smooth limestone. The darkness is absolute. And then, arriving all at once, the wounds. The wrists first. The ankles. The place in your side where the spear entered to confirm what was already true. Your hands move without instruction to touch these points, one after another, the way a man waking from a fall checks his body for damage. The damage is there. All of it. Every wound from Friday is present and functional and permanent. You sit with that information for a moment. You had known this was how it would be. Knowing it and inhabiting it are not the same thing. You sit up slowly. The linen loosens. In the complete dark of the sealed tomb, you begin to unwrap yourself, careful and deliberate. And when the burial cloth is free, you fold it and set it apart from the rest. You do not rush this. Left him. The stone that seals the left him. The stone that seals the entrance weighs more than any group of your followers could move, which is why the Pharisees requested a Roman guard unit from Pilate specifically to stand watch. They were afraid the disciples would come in the night and steal the body and claim exactly this. The irony of that fear is something you register without satisfaction. Outside, the guards are down. You walk out into a Jerusalem spring morning, into air that has temperature and weight, and the distant wood smoke smell of a city beginning to wake, and you stand in the garden and breathe it. Wait, because you know who is coming. She wait because you know who is coming. She arrives before the others. Mary Magdalene, moving fast, alone, carrying spices to complete what the Sabbath had interrupted Friday evening. She sees the stone and she stops. You watch her face process the open entrance, and you see her reach the logical conclusion. The body has been taken. She turns and runs back toward the city to find Peter and John. They come. They see the empty tomb and the folded cloth and the wrappings lying separately, and they leave. The text is honest about this. They saw and believed, and then they went home. Mary comes back alone, and she stands outside the tomb weeping, and she bends to look inside and sees two figures in white at the head and foot of where you had been, and they ask her why she's crying, and she tells them someone has taken the body, and she doesn't know where they've put him. Then she turns, and you are standing there. She thinks you are the gardener. This is the detail that asks the most of anyone who hears it. 3 years. Every road in Galilee, every meal, every conversation about what was coming and what it meant. She is looking directly at you, and she is seeing a stranger. You ask her who she is looking for. She asks if you have moved the body and where you have put him so she can take him away. You say her name, just her name, the way only one person in the world has ever said it, and something crosses in her face that has no clean description. She turns fully and says the Hebrew word that means teacher, and she reaches for you. You tell her not to hold on. The Greek is specific. Do not cling. What you are now is not a reversal of Friday. It is a transformation that includes Friday, and the shape of that transformation means you cannot be held in place the way she wants to hold you. There is no soft way to say this to someone who just watched you die 3 days ago. You say it anyway. Her grief and your instruction exist in the same moment, and neither cancels the other. You tell her to go and tell the others. She goes. The first witness to the resurrection is a woman whose testimony, by the legal standards of first-century Judea, would not have been admissible in court. That was not an oversight. Later that day, 2 of your followers are walking 7 miles from Jerusalem to a village called Emmaus, talking through everything that has happened. You fall into step beside them, and they do not recognize you. They explain the situation to you. The crucifixion, the empty tomb, the reports from the women that morning, which they are not sure what to make of. They are explaining your death to you. You walk with them for 7 miles. You talk through the thread that runs from Moses forward, the long arc of texts that had been pointing at this specific weekend for centuries, and they listen, and something moves in them that they will later describe as their hearts burning, though in the moment they don't understand why. You reach Emmaus at evening, and they press you to stay. You sit down to eat, and you take bread, and you break it, and the gesture is the one they know. Recognition arrives through a repeated physical act, through muscle memory and meaning layered over years of shared meals. They see who you are. Then you are gone. They get up in the same hour, all 7 miles back to Jerusalem, to tell the 11. That night the disciples are locked in a room. The doors are shut for fear of the authorities who arranged your execution, and the 11 are inside, and you are suddenly also inside. The moment of terror first, then the wounds shown, then joy. But Thomas is not there. When they tell him, he says what any reasonable person would say. Unless he sees the marks, unless he puts his finger into the wounds, unless he puts his hand into your side, he will not believe. He is not being obstinate. He is being the most honest person in the room. He is saying that what they're describing has never happened before in the history of the world. And testimony, even from people he trusts, is not the same as evidence. You do not blame him for this. You are already thinking about what you are going to do. 8 days pass. The disciples are in the same room, and Thomas is with them, and the doors are shut again, and you appear again in the same way. You go directly to him. You offer him exactly what he named. See the hands. Put your finger here. Reach out and put your hand in my side. Do not disbelieve. Believe. Thomas does not reach out. He looks at you and says, "My Lord and my God," which is the highest thing anyone says about you in the entire Gospel of John, and it comes from the mouth of the man who, 8 days ago, refused to take anyone's word for anything. The doubter delivers the loudest declaration. You tell him that because he has seen, he has believed. And then you look past him, past the locked room, past the first century, down through every person who will come after this without the evidence he had, and you say that those people are blessed. It is not a rebuke. It is an acknowledgement of what you are asking of everyone who was not in that room, which is most of the world, for the rest of time. The wounds are still there. Thomas saw them and didn't need to touch them after all. But they are there, open, real. You are carrying into whatever comes next the permanent record of what this cost, and that record stays because it is not a flaw in the process. It is the proof. Resurrection is not an erasure. It is a transformation that includes the damage. Some time after, the disciples have gone back to Galilee, back to the lake, back to fishing the way men return to what they know when they have no idea what to do next. They fish all night and catch nothing. At dawn, you are on the shore. You tell them to throw the net on the right side of the boat. They pull in 153 fish, a number specific enough that it has been argued over for 2,000 years, and the net does not break. John recognizes you first. Peter jumps into the water. There is a charcoal fire on the beach and bread and fish already cooking, and you invite them to breakfast, and nobody asks who you are because they know. This is the only other charcoal fire in John's account. The first one was in a courtyard on Thursday night, the night before the crucifixion, where Peter stood warming his hands and denied 3 times that he knew you. You wait until breakfast is done. Then you ask Peter if he loves you. He says yes. You ask again. He says yes. You ask a 3rd time, and the 3rd question breaks something in him because he understands the architecture of what you are building. 1 answer for each denial, 1 declaration placed over each wound in the record between you. You are not punishing him. You are showing him that the betrayal is not the last word. Feed my sheep. Take care of my lambs. Follow me. The repair is made in the same currency as the damage. 40 days after the morning in the garden, on the Mount of Olives outside Jerusalem, you gather them one last time. They are still asking the political question, is this when you restore the kingdom? 3 years, and they are still asking the same thing about Rome, about liberation, about the kind of power they can recognize. You redirect them towards something they cannot yet fully picture. They will receive power. They will be witnesses. Jerusalem first, then the surrounding region, then Samaria, then the ends of the earth, the shape of a mission expanding outward from a single point, like rings in water. Then you go. They stand there looking at the sky. 2 figures appear and ask them why they're looking up. It is a real question. The work is not up there. The work is on the ground, in front of them, in the same world they have always lived in, with no resources that look adequate to the scale of the task. They walk back to Jerusalem. Luke says they returned with great joy. They just watched you leave. The joy is not in the having. It is in having been given something to do, and in the particular freedom of a person who finally understands what they are for. 11 people. No institutional power, no army, no funding mechanism, a fishing net that didn't break under 153 fish. The wounds that stayed. The folded cloth left behind like a signature. Every calendar you have ever used measures its years from this weekend. Whatever you believe happened in that garden, something did. The question of exactly what has never stopped being worth the trouble of asking. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.